Hello folks, I'm Jim and I'm going to take you around Bournemouth. Bournemouth has been home for me, or certainly this area, for the last 30 years, and it's changed a lot over that time. Still a massively popular tourist destination, particularly in the summer. I'm just going to give you a walk around, and as we go I'll show you what's here, talk about some of the things that are letting the side down a bit these days, and my thoughts on what could be done to improve that. But mainly, I'm just going to give you a walk around and a little bit of commentary. Hope you enjoy it. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It's a new channel for me, and all the support is greatly appreciated. Let's go. So, just like many a place in the UK, we've got our share of local characters, the first of which we've just seen. And the percentage of local characters has only increased in the last few years. We've also got an absolute ton of language schools. I don't know if it's still the case, but I think at one point Bournemouth had the highest number of language schools in Europe. I don't know if that's still the case. I'm assuming this could well be a language school ahead of us now. Maybe not, actually. Forget that. So this is what used to be Debenhams, and it's now called Bobby's, which is a name they used, I think, many moons ago. This place was called Bobby's before Debenhams ever got anywhere near it, and I don't know how much success it's been, really. It's quite a cool idea. So up here they had sort of pop-ups and things, and a gallery, and sort of a bit of a market, but tried to make it a bit more of a destination place to shop, because nowadays so many people are doing their clothes shopping and things online that a lot of these big retailers just have lost their place, really. So it's a really cool concept. I just don't know how well it is doing. It never seems to be incredibly busy when you go in there. And then moving up to sort of the top half of, I guess, what you'd call the high street. And like many places in the UK, you'll see a lot of these shops are now empty or abandoned. I think there's a very simple solution to that, but it requires investment from the councils. Some more local characters there. I think if a lot of these town councils just thought, let's take back some of the parking, let's make it free, or free on certain days, and actually, instead of having empty shop after empty shop, let's give them free business rates for a year. I don't know if you're aware how much you have to pay in business rates if you take on a shop, but it's absolutely incredible, and is the difference between probably having a viable business and an unviable one in a lot of cases. So you can see we've got Build-A-Bear Workshop, Warren James, a shoe, got Primark up here. That's one of the only big shops to buy clothes anymore in Bournemouth town centre. River Island next to it, and then we've got the old Avenue Arcade here. That still has an HMV. Upstairs of it's completely shut now, I believe. Got Salt Rock, it's got a nice shop. This was M&S, but is no more. See, out in town there's a big shopping centre called Castle Point, which has got a huge M&S on 3 floors, and you've got completely free parking there. Bit easier to get in and out of than the town centre as well. O2, the obligatory Greggs. Don't think it's the last one of those we'll see on this little tour. Zara, JD, Sports Direct. And then up here it's called the Triangle. That's sort of the gay district for Bournemouth. Lots of rainbow flag bars and a few gay saunas and all that kind of stuff. So I don't spend myself too much time in that area, as you can imagine. But that's where it is. Skechers, CEX, and Summers, Cafe Nero. So a lot of the usual suspects really. And then down here you've just got KFC, Starbucks, Tesco Express, and an insurance broker. So let's head back down. Now the area in the town centre, right in the centre, is known as the square. And basically this part of the high street, if you like, the gardens which lead down to the beach, and the other half of the high street all sort of converge on the square. And during Christmas time, that's where you find the Christmas market. They do a bit of a food festival sometimes in the summer. Well, loosely speaking, a food festival. Basically, they have a dozen stalls selling food. But I don't think they do like big demonstrations or anything like that. But it seems to get the tourists in. And of course, also in the summer, we have the Bournemouth Air Show. It gets absolutely packed down here for the air show. And lots of people will actually pay to go and watch it from one of the hotel gardens up on the cliffs. That can be very expensive. But if you actually want to see the air show, probably not a bad way to do it, because along the cliff top and down on the prom, it's like a scene from a zombie film. And if you're in any way claustrophobic, it's probably not going to be the place for you. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. Here are Bournemouth Gardens, one part of it. You can actually walk that way for about half an hour, 40 minutes. You end up in a place called Koi Pond, which is sort of Branksome. So you're coming into kind of the crossover between Bournemouth and Poole at that stage. But it's quite a nice walk through there. Loads of squirrels and stuff. And you've got flat paths all the way through. So if you're a little bit limited with mobility, or you've got kids on scooters or anything, it's not a bad place to go and have a little walk. So here is the square. They repaved all this several years ago now, but when it rains, this can become a bit of an ice rink. It gets a bit slick, shall we say. There's the Obscura Cafe. I think it's still called that. That was for sale a while ago for 1.something million. And that's the lower gardens there, which go down to the beach. We'll go down there in a sec. I'm just going to show you the rest of the high street and what have you. Got the Ivy over there. That's only fairly recently opened, probably 6 months ago, something like that. I haven't been in there yet. A few restaurants and things up here. This is called Richmond Hill. A few restaurants up there and bars. And again, a few restaurants and bars down there. And then we've got the rest of the high street. If you want to just go shopping, there are far, far better places to go now than Bournemouth, because so many of the shops have gone. And we've got Castle Point just up the road, so it's a good place to come and have a little break, wander through the gardens. You've got, obviously, I think it's 7 miles of beach, all the promenades, all that kind of stuff. So still a really nice place to visit. There are loads of good places to eat. But for shopping, it's poo. Castle Point up the road has got a fair number of decent shops and free parking. And you've got way more choice than you've got here. The only thing you don't have at Castle Point is a Primark. But you can see there's just a few phone shops. All these are closed. This used to be House of Fraser, and I believe it's now being converted into flats. And then down here, we used to have the post office, we used to have Argos, quite a few other places, but most of those are closed. There's Lush. If you didn't know, Lush cosmetics are actually produced in Poole, just up the road from here. And their worldwide headquarters is a tiny little Lush shop on the old part of Poole High Street. I think that's quite cool. You can buy Lush literally all over the world, and their HQ is a tiny little old place on Poole High Street. Then we've got gift shop. There's a really nice old arcade here, which very originally is called The Arcade. And actually, I'll come back to this. We'll cut through there in a minute. And then we've got Ernest Jones, Holland Barrett, Cozy Club, sort of bar restaurant. And then another one of our former department stores, which is standing empty. This was Beale's. It was like the big, reasonably old-fashioned Bournemouth department store. That's gone. There's a dessert place down there. And there used to be one of those golf places. I think that's gone. And then this used to be a bank and is now casino slots. Superdry store, Mary Shelley, which I think is a Wetherspoons, and then some cafes. Quite a few cafes and like quick eat places. There's a Krispy Kreme up here. A couple of travel agents still, or is it just one now? Changes every time I come down here. Up here we've got a gentleman's club and Genting Casino, Trail Finders, Cafe Nero, TK Maxx, got Fat Face, Pocket Geek. So there are still shops around. It's just a bit of a sad place compared to what it used to be. Pan's Bakery. And then I'm going to stop here. There's another arcade there that's got a lot of closed shops in it. And some parking up the steps. You do get some sketchy characters in the alleyway there, which steps to go up. You'll often see people exchanging things in there and all looking a bit sheepish. Can't imagine what they could be. Further up the road there, you've got Old Christchurch Road, just packed with restaurants. Very eclectic mix, I would say. And I will just whip through here for a second, because through the other side of this arcade used to be the height of Clubland. Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, Bournemouth was kind of like the UK's Ibiza. It was all clubs and bars and had a real reputation for it. And quite a few of them were sort of a little bit higher end. So that used to be Bliss over there. Just around the corner we had the Cage in the Zoo. Loads of places along here, and they've all gone. There's one of those wild buffets over there. Never been in there. I expect it's nothing amazing, so they never usually are they? Gold buying centre. So I'm just going to cut for a second and then we can rejoin back at that arcade called The Arcade. Okay, so we're back in the arcade. Got Waterstones in here. This used to be an entrance to Beale's and that's obviously closed. There's quite a cool place here called The Trove, and basically people believe rent kind of shelving space and all sorts of wonderful goodies in there, and then a nice high-end jewellers. Get your Rolex and all that kind of stuff in there. And then out here we've got Westover Road. So this runs alongside the gardens, and it used to house the cinemas, but they've since gone over to that new complex BH2, which is where we started. I'll show you around there at the end of the video. We've got a coat. There's a big pub up here called the Brass House, which has been there for years. Another couple of jewellers, Richmond Classics, which is sort of fairly high ticket fashion. And then I think there's a Wagamama and a few restaurants and eateries, but nothing too crazy. Now, this place is called The Stable. It's sort of craft beers and pizza and all that kind of stuff. And then this was the back end of House of Fraser. You could get into the menswear from up here. That's gone. And then we're going to go into the gardens via this sort of side entrance. If you're bringing your kids to the gardens and you bring some monkey nuts with you, squirrels will literally come and take them out of your hand. They're so tame. You do occasionally see a rat running through this undergrowth as well, but thankfully you see more squirrels than you see rats. So that's where we started, over there, BH2, where the Odeon is. As I said, we'll finish there. And this is sort of the most well-known part of the gardens, I guess. So you've got this stream that runs all the way through. During the winter, sort of Christmas season, they set up a big ice rink here. There used to be one of those tethered air balloons. Air balloons? All balloons are air balloons, aren't they? A tethered hot air balloon, and that's gone. That went a few years ago, actually. I think that's the one they're now using in Torquay, but I'm not 100% sure. This gets very busy in the summer, in the evenings. Obviously, we've got all those language schools here, so you get loads of foreign students here, loads of tourists here. And it can be a nice atmosphere here in the evenings. Urban Garden is up there. That's a place I'd recommend going to visit. It's really nice restaurant. Got some outdoor seating, so on a nice day you can sit up there, eat, sort of overlook the gardens, and it's very nice. It's not dirt cheap, but it's not mega expensive either. Reassuringly expensive, I suppose. There's a crazy golf here that's been here for donkey's years, ever since I've lived here. And there should be like a Trade Descriptions Act thing, because it's not very crazy. It's, I don't know, reasonably sensible golf, I think, rather than crazy golf. We've got another bar restaurant up there. Then we've got Bandstand. They do have live music and stuff on occasion during the summer. And then up in the background, I'm not going to go up there, but there's sort of a covered market area, and sometimes they'll have like arts and crafts type market in there, but it's not usually that well supported, I don't think. And up there, I don't know if you can just make out that big dome looking thing. That's a big massive aviary that's chocked full of birds, but I'm not going to go up there today. Got a load of whale tails everywhere at the moment, all decorated fairly elaborately. Not sure what that's about. Looks like it's got something to do with Julius House, which is an absolutely brilliant charity. One of our local celebs, Harry Redknapp, I think, is a patron of that, but it's a brilliant charity. And then up here is Bournemouth Pavilion. So you'll still get some reasonably well-known acts. So that is not the biggest theatre in the world. There are a few different rooms there, but it's quite a nice place. And then as we walk down, we're getting towards the pier now. We've had this big wheel in Bournemouth now for a number of years. They've changed the carriages on it, I think this year or maybe end of last year. But it's not cheap. I think if I were to go on there with the wife and kids, it'd be like 20 or 30 quid. I'm not the biggest fan of heights in the world either, so I probably wouldn't go on it if it was free, but needless to say, I haven't been on it. See that stream still going through here? Some people there doing some planting by the looks of it. And in the summer, this area and this area of the beach is absolutely heaving with people. This is probably the number one spot for the tourists in terms of the beach. And in the evenings, when they've all buggered off, it's an absolute dump, because people just come down here for the day and leave all their litter. And I know the council spend millions just cleaning the beach every year. It's atrocious, really. I'm sure people don't do it in their own homes. So over here, there's a bit of a splash pad kind of thing. I think that's over there. You've got a little tourist information, cafe, and then a couple of little gift shops, and a big arcade at the bottom of the pier there. Upstairs, there's a bar restaurant called Aruba, and then you've got a Smuggler's Cove Crazy Golf over there, which is slightly crazier than the sensible golf in the gardens. Pasty shop. There's a zip line up there at the end of the pier, and that brings you all the way down to here. Right in the distance there, it's called Hainsbury Head, and that sort of takes you towards Christchurch over that way. And then that landmass over there is the Isle of Wight. Almost always visible, unless the weather's particularly atrocious. It's quite early in the morning and pretty dull today. I'm filming this in May 2025. There's some of the upstairs seating for Aruba, and then you've got the pier. There's like a rock climbing wall down there and a cafe and stuff. And then this side of the coast, down there you've got pool, sandbanks, and then round the coast you get Swanage. Further along you've got loads of really nice places along the coast. Along the prom here you've got a restaurant, an amusement arcade, and then a bit further down you've got another couple of bars and restaurants and things. There's a Harvester at some point, but nothing incredible anymore, I wouldn't say. Got a rock shop, just to remind you we're by the seaside. The Oceanarium, it's very good, but it's very small. So don't book a day at the Oceanarium thinking you're going to be there all day. You'll probably do it handsomely in an hour. And in fact, you could wander around in 20 minutes if you were so inclined. Hot Rock's the restaurant, and then you can just see the end of it there, but that's the Bournemouth International Centre, so that's like the big event centre in Bournemouth. It's not really big enough for the top acts to come to, and it's probably too big for some of the up and comers, so it sometimes gets a little bit left out. But there have been some really big acts played there over the years, but I don't seem to do it so much anymore. Just up that slope there, by the way, is the Nicky Hotel, and I'll put a link at the end of this video to a review of the Nicky Hotel. It's very luxurious, and it's probably a bit of a treat to stay there. Really nice restaurant on site, spa. It's got an outdoor pool that's heated to 28 degrees, I think, all year round, I believe. and it's top notch. So check out the review, which will appear at the end of this video. Okay, we're just going to head back to BH2 now. I'll show you around that. I think most of the places will be closed at the moment. And I'm going to go the back way. So in the gardens, you can either go sort of down there, or you can go this way. Bournemouth still is a nice place. It's just not the place it used to be. And there's certainly a lot more of what I call local characters than there used to be. And a lot of people don't feel as safe as they used to coming through here. And that's a great shame, because it was always a slightly more upmarket place. Not posh, not pompous. It was just a nice place. And a little bit of that shine has worn off. But I think the same can be said about so many places in the UK now. And so many high streets are full of empty shops. And, you know, opportunities seem to be vanishing. And I said my thoughts on it earlier. I think councils need to do something with business rates. They need to do something with parking. All these empty shops, you know, perhaps they could look at doing pop-up shops or something. Destination places. Give people experiences that they can't get online. But so many towns and cities in the UK need a major rethink. And so many of these big property owners need to stop being quite so greedy and think of ways of getting their properties occupied again. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with that? Do you think I'm a madman? Or have you got a different solution? Right, we're getting up towards BH2. There's the entrance to Urban Garden, by the way, that I showed you earlier. The place where you can sit upstairs and look over the gardens. Just to give you an idea of the menu. So not crazy prices, certainly not for this part of the world. Really good service in there every time I've been anyway. And really good food. And just quite a nice, chilled out ambiance. Okay, so BH2 coming up has got the big Odeon cinema and lots of chain restaurants and a couple of sort of different kinds of entertainment venues. And a lot of people moaned that it was an eyesore, and it used to be a car park actually. The whole thing used to be a car park. Not multi-storey or anything, just a one-level car park. Then it got redeveloped into this quite a while ago. I must admit, it does seem to be fairly popular. One really annoying thing with it is if you park here and use one of these places, go and have a nice meal, I don't think any of them validate your parking. It's only a small thing, but if you're going to spend £100 on a meal, should you then also have to pay a £5 to retrieve your car? I don't know. So, TGA Fridays, Nando's, Boom Battle Bar up here, which is a bit of an alternative entertainment venue. I'm not actually 100% sure what they do in there. I think it's like beer pong and pool and stuff, but here we go. Axe throwing, augmented reality darts, crazier Nolf, shuffleboard, karaoke, beer pong and American pool. I should probably check that out. That seems like fun. We've got Brewdog, then at the top here, Real Greek, Five Guys, Slim Chickens and Ask Italian. And then down here on the ground floor, it's a place called Escape Hunt, which is lots of escape rooms, funny enough. I guess the clue's in the name. Then Pizza Express. and TGI's. We've also got this Yogu, which is a frozen yogurt place. There's not, it's right here. And up here is your Nando's, the Big Odeon. It's got a Costa in the foyer as well. Prezzo, Ask. Then we've got Miller and Carter Steakhouse up here, which is pretty good. I've eaten there a couple of times. Pretty decent. Shark Tail Sushi. And then you've got Mulligan's out here. Mulligan's is an indoor crazy golf. They've also got darts and pool and a few other bits and bobs. Then back there you've got the Winter Garden Theatre, which I don't think that's still open. I think that's gone. You see Bournemouth International Centre's up there, known as the BIC locally. Got the big Hilton Hotel. That's got Sky Bar at the top. And then this church is now a nightclub. There you go. That's something I wouldn't have expected to say several years ago. And that's it really, folks. Hope you've enjoyed that little wander through the town and my inane ramblings. Please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. As I said, it is a new channel, so I really appreciate any support you can give. And go and check out the video popping up on the screen now. It's the review of the Nicky Hotel, which is basically just behind Bournemouth International Centre. And it's very, very nice. Go and check it out. Thanks for watching. See you soon.